Calaroga Shark Media.
Hey there, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Iliza Schlesinger's been doing a lot of press, and Iliza says feminism has become such a divisive word. And it wasn't even a word I used until I realized women are totally misunderstood. Feminism is about getting your point across without aiming to exclude anyone. You can stand up for women without bashing men, because feminism, by definition, is about uplifting everyone. And so I try to be skillful at getting the point across about the way women are represented and the way women feel our point of view, while including the men in the audience. The men who love us, who date us, who reject us, who brought us there, who we're friends with, and who we're related to, because if you don't get the other half on your side, whatever the debate, you're going to lose. Nobody wants to spend money to see a performance and leave feeling bad. I'm a big believer in being fair, taking shots at everyone, and always, even if I hurt your feelings, bringing you back in. Good question of Iliza here. She was asked, how big of a factor is the perception of being, quote-unquote, trying to clean this up, kissable, you know what I mean, in comedy? Iliza said, I don't care about the perception in stand-up comedy, but it is something that gets put on women anyway. I show up with my jokes ready to do the work, and then the comment is always about being at an attractive level or being hot. That's not to say that women don't want to be attractive, but you're factoring in these variables that you have to reckon with whether you wanted to or not, and that applies to the way we dress. Is that tight? Are you attractive? Are they distracted? These are just micro hurdles that are not insurmountable, but it takes a lot of practice to be like, well, I'm wearing this, and I'm talking about this. Get on board. Bob Odenkirk told Esquire his creative partnership with David Cross is like magic, pure magic that you cannot label or find. It's not unlike a marriage. I could sit here and list things that make us great partners, but there's a dimension of blind trust and love that you can't put a label to. If you're not stupid, you have to appreciate that and respect it and be thankful for it. Bob talked about growing up and said, my dad's indiscretion were so self-evident in public. He was just a black hole of presence and of leadership. He was just a zero. The lessons I got from my mom that were of value to being a decent person are self-evident. She worked her ass off. She was mission-oriented, which is to say, do the laundry, get the food on the table, get the kids where they're going. When you're a little kid and you live in a fairly nice neighborhood, but you drink powdered milk, you don't quite know. Do we have money or do we not have money? I think we have no money, but does that mean we're going to be living in a car next week? Your life's unsteady. You're very wobbly inside. We watched the Carol Burnett show. I don't really know how consciously what I was getting from that, but when I think back on it, you saw adults making each other laugh, and you're happy to feel that warmth from the TV. It's a wonderful thing to give to the audience, that warmth. That's genuine. I saw Monty Python when I was 11. I was absolutely like the world peeled back then. The veneer of things being legitimate was laid bare by Monty Python. Jimmy O. Yang spoke about his comedy and said, I feel like you can really create something out of thin air without any tools. It's just your brain and then a microphone. That's all you need, and an audience, and I fell in love with it. In America, not everybody grew up with immigrant parents, not everybody grew up Chinese, but me getting more and more specific about my truth and letting people into seeing a piece of my life, that's when people started relating to me. That's when I was able to sell a lot more tickets, because now people aren't just coming to watch me for the jokes, they're coming to watch me because they feel like they know me. Attitude Mag, Attitude Mag, spoke to Rachel Feinstein about her ADHD. Rachel said, I'm insanely disorganized. I'm always running late. I shed debit cards. I'm always leaving a shoe in somebody's car. I lose a passport almost every year. My husband, who is OCD, always says to me, why don't you just put things back in the same place? And I'm like, you're assuming I know where I put them. My hands take trips throughout the day. It's like my hands aren't connected to my body. I'm a workaholic, but only if somebody's sitting with me. I always have to have a babysitter for myself. I pay people to sit with me. For example, an editor expressed interest in working with me on my Netflix special, but I knew I was never going to go through it and email him time codes. So I said to the editor, I'm going to come to your house and sit with you and edit every line with you. I don't think he thought I was really going to do it. Then I was over at his place, just me and him and his wife in a little apartment. I'd leave and bathe and give him time to implement notes, but we were together for 2 weeks and we got it done. I think we were common law wed by the end of that process. Seth Meyers spoke to The Hollywood Reporter about how it's increasingly hard to find humor in politics, and my barking dogs weren't impressed by what Seth had to say or that I was recording. They don't give a hoot. I don't know if you could hear that or not. The noise reduction might get it, but I hear it. Guys, I'm trying to record. Why don't you edit this out, John? Because that's not fun. Seth said, I feel like a lot of people early on election night, when you realize what was happening, it was certainly a real feeling of dread about how do we do this again? I'll admit to thinking in 2016, like, this terrible mistake's been made, but at least I know it won't happen again. And then it happens again. And you just couldn't emotionally approach it the same way. It would have felt really empty. I do think we're in this unique situation where as comedians, opposed to the news, you can totally talk about things however you want to talk about them. So there wasn't a big meaning or anything at the show, but we did say, all right, we have to still be joyful in the making of the show. And even when we're talking about how bad things are, it has to be through an expression of joy with people who also want to feel like they're coming for an hour of joyful performance. The Hollywood Reporter asked Seth about losing the band from late night. Seth says those conversations were not fun. We don't always agree with the people in charge, but we always do believe them, and it's nice to know they're coming to you sometimes with bad news from an honest place. And in this case, the news is industry-wide. So we didn't take it personally, and we came up with a solution. And while it's really hard to lose the band, and on a personal level, I miss them all a great deal, we don't feel as though the show has been massively affected on a quality level. I don't feel like we hear from anybody. It's just not the same. And it's funny, when we talk about innovation, we were never going to innovate by making the show bigger. We weirdly innovate by making it a little smaller. Nice job by W. Kamau Bell. He's been doing a run of stand-up shows and giving the proceeds to 13 local arts organizations. Those organizations lost funding when the National Endowment for the Arts canceled some grants. Bell said it's about supporting the local art scene and making up for what our government refuses to do. We're going to try and make those whole that didn't receive any reimbursement on their grants and then split the proceeds evenly with the rest. These shows benefit the Berkeley Repertory Theater, the American Conservatory Theater, TheaterWorks Silicon Valley, Theater Bay Area, San Francisco Youth Theater, Marin Shakespeare Company, Oakland Theater Project, New Conservatory Theater Center, Magic Theater San Francisco, Children's Fairyland in Oakland, Crowded Fire Theater Company, Co-Dance Theater, and Dance Mission Theater. Bell said, without theater's nurturing talent, I don't have the career I have right now. Nice job, sir. From Stripes.com, which is Stars and Stripes, you know, the military newspaper? Yeah. They wrote about a comedy bar in Tokyo, and I found it interesting, and I like doing this sort of thing on the weekend. It's called Tokyo Comedy Bar, and you'll find it near Shibuya Station in Tokyo. We're told the third-floor club includes a cramped bar serving craft beer and snacks. The room has 55 fold-out chairs, a small stage, and a sound system. Comedian Tim Toe got up and told some R-rated jokes related to his experience as a Chinese-Canadian before local favorite Yuri Collins explained her dream of landing a sugar daddy who could fund cosmetic surgery. Garen Chu shared a story about getting upgraded to business class and leaving his wife to ride an economy on a recent flight. That's very relatable. Tokyo Comedy Bar now hosts around 75 shows a month in both Japanese and English. That's a lot. The main draw is the nightly 7:30 p.m. stand-up comedy showcase. A 9 o'clock slot usually features open mics, international headliners, or Japanese language acts. If you find yourself in Tokyo, it'll cost you about 2,000 yen to get in. That's around $14. And we're told dress is casual. TokyoComedyBar.com if you're curious about more. And that is your comedy news for today. If you enjoy the program, tell a friend about it. They might like it too. If you would like the program without ads or feed drops, check the link in the show notes, calaroga.com/plus. Or if you're on Apple Podcasts, click the banner that says uninterrupted listening. See you tomorrow.